So this is day 5, and you can tell right from the beginning I start off with a lot more pressure. I'm asking more of her. So I'm trying to teach her how to yield her hindquarters right now, because this is the most important part. It helps with bolting so I can lead her places, and it helps with under saddle so I can start getting her moving. So you can tell she didn't really want to go to the direction I was asking right there. So I'm just going to give a quick pull. So I prefer to do one quick pull to get their nose turned to me rather than like hanging on the lead rope and dragging them in. I think it's a lot more effective that way and they figure it out quicker. So that time you could tell I was asking her to go that direction, so I gave her slack as soon as she moved that way, but you could tell that she was a little twitchy just from the stick going to touch her. Now this is pretty fast action at the beginning here, so I'm gonna miss some stuff, so if you need me to explain anything else, please ask in the comments. But I'm pretty much just asking for her to yield her hindquarters and face up. You can tell she's still a little bit weary about that, but she's looking and chewing. She kind of understands that when I pet her head, it's a good thing. Which is major improvement from the prior day where I just barely started touching her head. So it's really important that I don't release in moments like that. Right there, she went to go after me. But it's really important that I don't release in moments like that, because then that'll just teach her that she can get away. Again, you can see I do a lot of the one quick pulls. She's thinking about challenging me. So all I'm really asking is for her to go the direction that I'm asking her to go, and then to yield her hindquarters. So that was a lot better departure. It ran through my yield, so I'm going to ask again. Again, she gets a little bit nervous about me coming up to her. And now I'm not going to allow her to walk up to me like I normally would, where I like them drawing in and coming up to me, but given her response of charging towards me and kind of getting a little bit pin-eared and wanting to come at me, I'm not going to allow that. So that was a much better yield right there. Much better takeoff too. Again, I'm going to go in and just rub her face good as often as I can, just as a reward, and also show her that touch is good. Again, she thought about it there. I'm asking for her to yield her hindquarters just from a closer distance without sending her out. And this is the same as my prior video where I started it by sending her out, because it's a lot easier to teach something when they're like moving forward rather than when they're still and you're doing it more in one spot. You can tell there she got a little bit, she's very concerned with her face. Now I'm going a lot quicker, like you'll see me run over her ears a couple times with my hands, going over her face really quick, and it's better to get them used to new parts fast than for me to like linger on the ears and just focus on touching those. If I go over everything really quick and then go back to a section she already knows and is comfortable with, she's gonna understand and learn that the new spot I'm touching is safe a lot quicker. Again, just getting her used to touch. I don't know if I was adding in some padding there too or not, or if I was just petting her. Yeah, I'm adding in a little bit of padding. So a lot of horses don't really like the noise of it or the feel, and it's just kind of new and different to them, and I never really like pat horses like that as a reward for when they do something well, but they do need to know the feeling and the sound of it for desensitization and everything. So now I'm going to touch her hind end with the stick. You can see I'm just gonna hold it there. I'm petting her with it. She was quiet, so I'm gonna take that pressure away. I go back in, show her it's okay again, take the pressure away. Good, much better departure again. Much better yield. If you notice, I try to do everything equally on both sides too. This goes for pretty much everything in training. Good, she corrected herself there, so she thought about going the wrong way. Good. Again, I know sometimes the one little jerk seems like it might be a little bit harsh, but trust me, it's a lot nicer than me just slowly adding my weight on there. So now I'm going to skip around a little bit, jump up and down, kind of get her prepared for more movement and everything. I'm not going to necessarily try to really stop her movement, but then I go to touch her with the stick instead of jumping, and she does not want to be touched. So I do go back to the jumping later, but normally I would keep doing it until she quieted down, but then we brought up the issue of she did not want to be touched with the stick. I usually prioritize what I want to work on, so because I brought the stick into it, now I'm going to be working on touching her with the stick rather than going back to the jumping. So a couple moments there where she got pretty speedy, upset about it. That was kind of a moment where she was really just overthinking it, because she's been touched with the stick before on that side, and then it just came out of nowhere while I was jumping. She wasn't expecting it, so she just had to have her brain slowed down to remember. Good. Good. And I work a lot at the walk and the trot. And again, the base of my training is all liberty, so for me to be doing this on the line is pretty weird for me this early on. I normally get the hindquarter yield at liberty and get them pretty soft and pretty much able to lead before I even have a halter and lead rope on them. I make sure to give her a lot of releases by petting on her face, because she started to realize that that's good and relaxing. So you can see how she's understanding direction a lot better now. That was such a nice hindquarter yield too. Good. So I want to be able to do it at the standstill too, not necessarily have to send her out every time. I just stick with what I'm asking. Be patient, wait for her. There. I never try to make too big a deal over anything. Usually I can tell when they're getting just simply confused, and it's easier if I just kind of stand my ground with what I'm asking. So I do a lot of desensitizing today too with the rope. This is probably her hardest day work-wise. You can tell she's already sweaty and kind of tired and breathing a little bit heavier than the other days. But now I'm going to start getting her used to the rope again. I did this with the lead rope. You saw me do this in the last video. But now I'm going to start tossing it over her back and I believe around her legs. I love using tools like this. I love using lead ropes and sticks and everything because they all act as extensions of my arms and start touching the horses in places where it's definitely safer to do at a distance first. Honestly, that wasn't too bad of a reaction, so I'm just going to pull it off and toss it over there again. Now, I did stop her here because I was not ready to have her dragging the line quite yet. So right now I'm just kind of snaking the rope over her back. Which is a lot easier to get them used to the feeling when you snake it over a bunch rather than pulling it off and then tossing it over again every single time. And I'm glad that she is figuring out the releases and she can at least relax a little bit and she understands when she's good. Because I have had a few that kind of hold that in, and even when I pet them for them to relax and understand, they just don't release at all and they're still super tense. So I am glad that she's able to know when she's giving the correct answer. I'm really happy with her response to all of this. You know, a lot of them look at the rope on the ground and either she's not doing it because she's not worried about it or she's not doing it because she's more worried about me and her attention isn't even there. But either way, her response was very nice to the rope. And you'll see me do the hindquarter yield a lot in pretty much all of the training. So the ropes are getting all in between her hind legs and touching them all over, and the rope is dragging behind her. And I've had a couple horses that kind of freak out about a lead rope dragging or ropes dragging, so she definitely isn't too bothered by it. Good reaction to it coming off and falling off over her tail. And here I go back to the jumping. Again, normally I would not be doing that with the lead rope, but because I do not trust this horse, I don't want her in my space, which makes it difficult because I want them to get used to me being next to them, but I don't trust her. She didn't like the way that my hand was coming over, so I'm going to make sure I pet her with my hand the way it was coming. Again, all of this is really good to get them used to movement, and also I'm going to start jumping by her side soon and getting her used to the feeling of me jumping up and down near her side, getting ready for mounting. So I decide today I'm going to hose her off, and I really like doing this early on because it gets them used to the feeling of something touching their legs, especially their hind legs, before I have to touch them. So what I do is, start it not quite touching them, and then I start on their legs, and she was good. It touched her for probably about 4 or 5 seconds there, so I took it off. And then I got that slack back in the lead rope. Again, really short amounts of time I'm holding it on her. The sooner I can release while she's doing good, the quicker she's going to understand that it's okay. So now the tricky part is she starts moving and I have to keep it on her. So I have to move the water with her. Again, and her first rinse down really was so I hadn't touched it to her yet, so I'm not going to hold it to her when she moved that time. And I always start at their legs and make my way up and then back. Good. So I caught it, took it off right before she was about to move there. She wanted to move there, but then she thought it through. You can see her tense up a little bit there with her hind end, but she still tolerated it. I'm just going to speed a little bit of this up. And now I do start getting their faces pretty early on because I used to never, rinse down my horse's faces at all. And normally I would do this from a closer distance. I wouldn't do it so far away, but given the horse that she is right now, it's better to be safe. Now, I never want to get it in their ears or anything, but it's pretty much just misting down when I do that. You can tell in that clip that I was able to get the lead rope onto the bottom ring. And right here is probably my favorite clip of the day. I actually found a spot that she liked being itched, and she actually enjoyed it. She found a purpose for me. So this is the last thing I do on day 5 is I prepare her to be haltered. She doesn't really like her nose being touched, so I'm just going to quickly go over it. I did go over it quite a few times, and then just quickly take my hand off. Now I'm going to get her used to me reaching around. I just take her lead rope to pull it over, shimmy it around a little bit. I do this quite a few times. This is to mimic when I take that piece of the rope halter over her neck. Now I'm going to take a rope and get her used to it on her face and around her nose. Then I'm going to flip the lead rope over as if it was a rope halter. It'll get a little bit caught on her lip and it'll get a little bit caught on her lip. That way she gets used to that feeling. And now I have the rope halter, and I originally wanted to put it on over the other halter, but then probably after 10 minutes I realized there was no way it was going to work that halter was just way too bulky, so then I took the risk and just took it off. Okay, got the first step done. Now I have to get it over her nose. I get it part way up her nose, and then I take it off. So I could have easily just pulled it up there and then tied it really quick, but I want this horse to be able to halter long term all the time. It's not something I want to rush and just shove on her face and make her feel claustrophobic about it. So I'm gonna put it on gently and take it off a couple times before I tie it. I sped it up here because it took me quite a while to tie it. But you can tell she was pretty relaxed. Pretty tired. Not too worried about it. And then I put the other lead rope on it. And yeah, that was day 5. I was going to put day 6 in here too, but I realized I had way too much footage. So day 6 I will be working on next.